Oh, I'm off
We got
screen.
it. Hello.
Hey,
We're live.
cool. Well, my hair's all over the place. It's all this rain. It's very rainy here, and then it's the what's it called, the humidity. So I think my hair goes extra frizzy here. But yeah,
Oh, it looks all right to me.
yeah.
How are
I
you
think it
enjoying Indonesia?
it's okay. I've got very high standards, and I wanted it to be perfect because my Indonesian friend overhyped it. But it is very cheap. Like you can get a nice smoothie for £1.50, but in Jordan you can get for £1 and even better service. So you're really spoiled if you're coming from Jordan. And people in Jordan are incredibly friendly. Like they just talk to you in the lift, even if they don't know you. But over here, they're nice, but they won't. You can't make random comments. You can, but with great difficulty. People
Mm-hmm.
are kind of, I feel like they're Japanese kind of thing. They go like assalamu alaikum like this, and they give you food like this and all this respect. But I don't care for respect. I just care for being social. So everybody wants something different, I guess. So it's nice.
I
It's very
guess they
green.
they don't speak
Yeah.
English that well. Maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they don't speak English that well. Some people do, but not much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's nice. I'm kind of exploring places, just like where would I live forever? Like it's very fortunate kind of opportunities. Like in Jordan, I could have like a 10-bedroom mansion for 50,000 and build it like according to my own design. Like lots of poor people, like I mentioned it before. It's just like, oh, could I do the same in Indonesia? Indonesia is pretty cheap, but Indonesian houses don't look anywhere near as good as Jordanians. Like Jordanian houses are like they're good. I think you describe it as masons. People work with rock and stuff, and they're very precise and they're really good at. Over here, houses look like they're rotting away, and they're made of yeah, because of the humidity and stuff, something like that. So yeah, it's nice. I've had some amazing experiences. Did what's it called? Parachuted off a
Oh,
mountain.
parasailing,
I think yeah, whatever they call it. Yeah, you jump off a mountain and the the parachute opens.
paragliding, I should have said.
Paragliding, that's the one. Yeah, that's what I did. Went on a bullet train. So that's nice. Yeah. Um, yeah. So uh, yeah, kind of exploring. I think a lot of British people we do that, isn't it? In our blood, we travel a lot, and we're looking for something perfect and stuff. We travel more than Americans and most other people. Is that right? Do you think so?
Well, I suppose people like the holiday experience and going to exotic locations, right? I think, and
I don't know if
having
it's
new
everybody. Like, do
experiences.
Americans do that? I don't think Americans care. As they have this, they say that like half of Americans don't even have passports. I'm not sure if that's really true, and yeah, we travel a lot more, I think, than most people. Like, yeah, I think so. Like when I went to in my local village, I told the shopkeeper, and like when I say local village in Jordan, right? Everybody talks to everybody, everybody knows everybody, right? And I go, oh, I'm gonna go and see my friend in Indonesia. Like, just see your friend? Oh my god, just like going Indonesia just to see a friend. He was like, he thought it was hilarious, right? But people they don't travel. It's like there's a once in a lifetime thing for them. But for me, I've traveled so many times in 1 year, so something so quite fortunate and just different mindset as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I think it's yeah. For me, it's interesting. I'm kind of exploring, thinking, what's my direction in the future. Like, um, I'm kind of very fortunate in the sense that as a Muslim, I've got a lot of direction already. But it's kind of like, yeah, what do I really, really want, sort of thing. Yeah, I'm going Philippines on Saturday morning. Can go there for 3 days, just check it out, see what's like. Yeah.
Right. So, how did you think your stream with E. Michael Jones went?
It was good. It was good. He was very happy about it. He emailed me afterwards. He said it's quite funny. He goes, I want to share. He said that interview was really good, and I think it was an interview format. I was trying to talk less. Um, and he said, I want to share your stream with my Muslim or Islam bashing friends. I said, yeah, share it with your Islam bashing friends or not, whoever it is. Yeah. So I mean, I'm used to talking to Islamophobes. They're kind of interested in what we do, isn't it? So yeah. So it went well from his perspective, and I think there was some intelligent conversation. We had a lot of agreements, and kind of that's what we were going for. Like, how can we were both interested. I think I don't know, we're both grown up, I feel, enough to realize it's not about debating and winning debate and making the other person lose. It's not a zero-sum game, as it were. It's like, how do we make society better? That's a more wise and grown-up and mature way of doing things. So, yeah, it was good.
I guess I was thinking you might, Muslims would say, with Sharia.
Sorry, what do you mean?
I imagine, Muslims would say you can make life better with Sharia.
Yeah, but that's but I'm trying to do it in a sort of subtle way, because Sharia is what Christians and Jews used to practice. But just kind of making it like, just don't call it Sharia, and just like say, go on, let's do it. Let's put, wear reasonable clothes again, be modest, and we'll talk about all those things.
Why don't you say that the Quran actually supports the First Amendment with Chapter 2, verse 256? So the Americans can at least think, oh, it's part of us, right?
Maybe I could drop that in. It's just like you try different things with people. There's no one formula. I don't try to imagine, oh, if I say this, then it will, resonate necessarily. So, okay, you said it. In my next show, maybe I'll mention it. I want to do a series where Westerners have an opportunity to develop. What I mean by that is, I'm kind of thinking next month when I talk to him again, hopefully, God willing, I want to say, is it that we are victims of Jewish power, or do we have any power of ourselves? That's kind of like one stage. Then I want to go to usury, maybe, and different topics that we are supposed to agree on, but people have forgotten. Like, people think, oh, usury, they don't even know what that is. Most Christians, right? They think interest payments from banks are normal, and they don't even realize it's against their own teachings, and they don't realize, especially like his viewers.
Do Christians say anything about usury? The New Testament doesn't say anything about it, does it?
Yeah, but they used to be so allergic to it that they didn't indulge in it, and they used to get the Jews to do it, right? So they're not supposed to.
And then they changed their minds.
Yeah, but I think, didn't I? I'm not sure, but I think he mentioned something like he didn't believe in usury. Maybe there's some other time. I'm not sure, but I'm quite sure.
Well,
yeah,
John Calvin was the one who said a little bit of usury is okay.
But this is how the who's it? The Rothschilds and everybody have got their power over everybody. So his viewers are the anti-Semites, you want to call it. They love him. They love E. Michael Jones because he hates on Jews, right? But then if you're worried about Jewish power, that's where all their power comes from, through money and banking is nothing without usury. So
I think whatever power they have, it's conferred on them by Gentiles anyway.
Through usury,
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, you don't have to be Jewish to operate fractional reserve banking. I mean, people have picked up the tricks.
No, but I'm saying the Jews are most people would say Jews run banking. They do.
Well, why not say America runs banking? It's the global hegemon after all.
Well, but let's say from E. Michael Jones' perspective, right? He's going to get down to the Jews do it. Okay, and it probably wouldn't be wrong. Yeah? And so I'm just saying, we have to communicate with people according to how they operate, and they're going to say, Jews do it, and that's fine. I wouldn't disagree with it, right? Okay, you might go, oh, I don't want to call it Jewish, I want to call it American. So I'll talk to you in a different way because you're going to be hung up on saying it's not the Jews for whatever reason, right? So yeah, I'll just talk to everybody how they, their level of understanding, how they want to talk, rather than getting hung up on things and just agreeing with.
Hung up on things, you kind of need to sort of establish whether they've got, the central premise correctly, whether, Jews are in control, whether they're in control because they operate usury. But if you, reject the premise that Jews are in control, then, that would be a start. And I think, with the Americans, they're always blaming Jews, but it is actually America that has, nukes and invades other people's countries and controls world banking and global
And why
media.
do they do that? And who really
Because they run a global empire.
Who runs America's banks?
The Federal Reserve, right?
Who runs that?
And the
Who's
thing
in
is
charge
that
of
the
that?
government can say, oh, hey, we're going to ban usury now, right? We're going to ban usury with Sharia. I mean, this is what Hitler wanted to do, but he realized because he had imperial ambitions, he needed to borrow money to fuel, to pay for his, war against Russia and all kinds of things. So, but I mean, the problem with usury is basically you can create money out of nothing. So, you will keep going back to shake the money tree until you are, over your head in debt. And,
and until money is worthless.
Yeah, and then you think, oh, well, I'll just print lots of money, destroy the savings of ordinary people until they get so angry with me, they overthrow me, because that would quickly pay off my war reparations, as the Germans did during the Weimar Republic, when the German middle classes suffered hyperinflation.
Yeah.
And that made them vote for Hitler, who promised to ban usury, because he was saying, oh, look at the stock market, it's just an international casino. When I get into power, I'm going to ban all that. But he only banned it for ordinary Germans who couldn't borrow money on interest, but he needed to fund his wars.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But I mean, have you not heard the expression, when you point your accusing finger at someone, 3 more point back at you?
Okay, so sure, I'm a big fan of saying pointing the thumb, so saying all problems start at yourself. So, but yeah, I agree that you should. So, what you suggesting that people should look at themselves before they blame other people?
Yeah, I mean, particularly the Americans. I mean, they want to blame the Jews. It's like, obviously the Israelis wouldn't do any of the stuff that they do if they didn't know the Americans would support them, whatever they did. And so, if you're going to be sensible about it, you have to think of America and Israel as Mr. and Mrs. Or Punch and Judy being controlled by the same puppeteer. Instead of saying, the Jews control Americans. And,
no, so that was one of the topics I want to bring up. I'm trying to say I don't believe in looking at yourself as a victim, because then you can't do anything. So one of the topics I want to bring up is, are we victims of Jewish power, or, I mean, I'm trying to think of a shorter sentence, but are we victims of Jewish power, or do we have any power, or, that kind of thing? Like,
we do. I mean, I've been trying to explain
I would say
to
we
people
do.
That all the power that we think Jews have been conferred on them. The Western governments are doing it on purpose to overprivilege Jews. So so we hate them, and then when we hate them and say things against them, they'll say, oh, look at these Nazis. We have to deal with these Nazis. We have to take away their free speech and put them in prison for hate speech, and delete their social media accounts. And this fuels division and rancor amongst Gentiles, blaming each other, and this prevents us all from saying, we don't agree with government policy. We don't agree with gay marriage and transgenderism and giving Israel the unwavering support of NATO countries. You know, because people are just being told to, hate each other within their own groups when really the problem is the system. The system is, liberalism. I mean, officially we're supposed to be living under the liberal order, and how does a liberal order choose its leaders? It's through elections, which means political parties, right? And that is our idol at the moment. People don't understand. People still think we're going to keep voting, and eventually we'll vote for, I don't know, Nigel Farage, and he'll be our leader, and he'll kick out all the Muslims or whatever they think he's going to do. But he may not do it, even if elected. A lot of Americans voted for Trump, thinking he'd end the endless wars, and he wants to start. He wants to continue the war in Ukraine. So you have to ask Americans, well, what do you think you're doing? Can you get rid of your warmongering president? And they'll probably say, oh, we're just ordinary Americans. We don't know what, nobody listens to us. And even when we vote, the elections are rigged and, our preferences are ignored. And it's like, okay, so what are you going to do about it?
They're going to start voting for people like Mamdani, get all the Muslims in who stand up for something. I think
and they'll blame Jews as well, right? They get a Muslim mayor in New York, and they'll blame Jews.
Mamdani doesn't blame Jews. He's got a lot of Jewish people on his side.
The rest of America will blame Jews for New York having a Muslim mayor.
I don't.
I mean, they blame Jews for everything anyway, don't they?
No, they don't. They blame Jews for what they need to be blamed for, and they don't blame all Jews really, because they like a lot of Jews. There's a lot of anti-Zionist Jews are very popular amongst Muslims, amongst everybody really.
Yeah, but then you should divide Jews into Israeli Jews and diaspora Jews. Diaspora Jews who live outside Israel, understandably.
Isn't it the proper category Zionist or not Zionist?
Well, you would expect most Jews to be Zionists, right? But now that Zionism has such a bad reputation and generates so much hatred, a lot of Jews living in Europe and America will be saying, well, I don't want to live in Israel anyway. I will never go and live there. And I don't want to be associated with the genocide and atrocities that Israelis commit. So I'm going to call myself an anti-Zionist Jew.
Yes, just because they don't like genocide, so they disassociate with it. And I would say, the people who go to Israel, they're going for the freebies, a bit of land and all that kind of stuff, and then they have to be essentially housekeepers for those lands. Like that guy who said, oh, if I don't steal your land, somebody else will. He's just like taking somebody's land, and he has to keep that because they need Jews to just be there, otherwise they'll be taken up by Muslims. They need Jews in Israel, otherwise it just doesn't work, doesn't make sense. So
so you create an American colony and have it peopled by Jews prepared to serve the interests of America by joining the IDF and peopling the colony, but you also fool the religious Jews thinking that they're doing something religious by going to live in Israel when it doesn't even satisfy the minimum moral standards of the Noahide laws, right? I mean, because it's a secular country with gay parades in Tel Aviv, so I don't think if God existed, he would approve of the way Israel was being run. So there is no, holy place for Jews to go to. So you could say, well, what can Jews do? They're such a helpless people. There's nowhere safe for them to go to. And yesterday I saw some Jew on social media saying, where is it safe for a Jew to go? And the answer
is anywhere, everywhere,
or
just
nowhere.
not Israel, probably.
Yeah, or nowhere, because if World War III is about to break out, nowhere is safe.
for anybody.
Yeah,
But otherwise, everywhere is safe for Jews because nobody cares if you're a Jew normally. Um, yeah, normally most Jews are secular. They don't look like Jews. Nobody cares what they do. Just yeah.
but a lot of people are complaining that it's not safe to wear a kippah. It's not safe for Muslims even. I don't know if you're well aware of the Whitechapel protest at the weekend. Um, that there were these sort of anti-Muslim UKIP people who,
Hmm.
I think they wanted to march through Whitechapel, but the police separated them and told them to march from South Kensington to Knightsbridge, where nobody would get angry with them. And then the Muslims in Whitechapel, came up in their balaclavas and their masks, and then and then GB News said, "Oh, look at them, they're so scary, aren't
Yeah,
they?"
way too many Muslims though just get beaten up. Those white people. There's gonna be like you can't they can't be outnumbered. The Muslims will outnumber them, destroy them anyway. So it'd be a bit silly for them to go there. And the Muslims in Knightsbridge are the rich Arabs. Like they'll stick to their coffee shops and nothing would happen. It would be a bit strange. A protest next to Harrods. It'd be a bit
Yeah, yeah,
strange.
and they were carrying their crosses in the demo. I noticed on
Hmm.
Saturday. So these atheist Islamophobes are using um, Christian symbolism to cheer
Yeah.
themselves up, right? But the
Yeah.
point is, I think all this bad stuff is happening because Westerners do not have a religion. They think it's Christianity, but that went a long time ago. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
so many of them are complaining, like, oh, what is King Charles doing, praying with the Pope? Aren't they supposed to be at loggerheads? And then last night there was this Catholic saying there was this female bishop with wearing a rainbow LGBT scarf, and there were all these sort of patriarchs of the Orthodox Church saying their thing, and there was this woman with this gay scarf in the background. What on earth is happening, kind of thing, right?
Mm.
And I think the sort of realizing that there is no possibility of unity for Christians, however much
That's a
they try.
problem. Yeah. Yeah. Do you think they can find unity amongst Catholics? I'm not really an expert, but I think even Catholicism is watered down because didn't they all the women have to wear veils when they went to church? Like, is how much unity? I mean, yeah. What is the official stance on anything in Catholicism?
Nothing, because the Pope basically submits to the liberal order, which is why I mentioned why he put up with
Hmm.
all this gay female bishop wearing her rainbow scarf, and all these different groups of Christian denominations hated each other, but now since they don't take their own religion seriously, they're happy to pray together and stuff like that. But and in the
Hmm.
meantime, they'll say gay marriage is fine, transgenderism is okay, you know, so they don't stand for anything. And that is their
Yeah.
problem. And if you said, what are Christian principles, they wouldn't be able to tell you.
That's an interesting question. Maybe that's something to ask. I could list a couple of things and ask E. Michael Jones, what are those principles? For example, should women wear a veil? Should usury be acceptable? Should, um, yeah, I mean, he would probably accept. I don't want to be too difficult either. I'm trying to kind of make some sort of encourage him to encourage Christians generally to have some principles, so rather than have a go at him.
But the thing is, they can't cite them. What I'm trying to say is, if you ask
Yeah,
Muslims, what are your Muslim principles, they'll at least be able to say, oh, the five pillars, the five
yeah,
pillars
they'd
of
be very
Islam.
clear. That's the thing about this. I think Michael Jones was saying, uh, Muslims are too prescriptive. He was kind of giving that impression, like I was saying, you should have sex this many, whenever you want, really. Um,
Well,
as a man, and he was like saying that's too prescriptive or
well, I
something.
mean, he wasn't going to agree with you that, a wife had to have sex with her husband 21 times in the kitchen whenever he felt like it when she was cooking.
But that's not exactly what I meant, right? It was like whatever she's been, when she shouldn't make excuses with the idea, but I think you understand it. Elliot, remember, I'm reading, at least Elliot listened, so that's good. Making progress, even if he pretends he disagrees with us and stuff, but he's learning. That's good. Is Gandalf making fun of Elliot or something? Because the kids like, when do you know Gandalf?
Yes. But there's so many people call themselves Gandalf, after that character in Lord of the Rings. So I don't know if it's the same one that I spoke to some years ago. But the point is, if you're talking to American, this is what I advise Muslims to do. Just keep relying on chapter 2, verse 256 and say, this is the Quran supports the First Amendment, because no other religious scripture does, right? Hindus don't have.
Yeah, I don't want to focus on these things. Something that's just pleased me right now when I'm looking at the. I'll tell you what I'm focusing on, and the thing that just pleased me right now is I'm looking at the chat, and Gandalf says to Elliot something about, "Are you still gambling?" and all this kind of stuff. And Elliot says, "I've cleaned up my act," which is exactly what I'm. So even if Elliot is just having a go at me, and if we keep repeating all these good things, gambling is bad, and what else was he doing? I don't know, wanking over porn or something. I don't know. He doesn't do that, maybe, but just repeating these things that will make you a better man and more, make more progress in your life. That's fantastic, and we should respond to Elliot a little bit, since he makes an effort to come and insult us, but at least he comes. Can polygamous cultures live peacefully alongside of monogamous cultures? I think there are no such thing as monogamous cultures, because what happens is you got your alpha males and they just have sex with loads of people. They're not monogamous. There's no such. I don't think monogamous cultures exist, and they're not even viable. But
people cheat, right? They claim to be monogamous, but actually they have sex with more than with people other than their spouse. But it's only manageable under Sharia, because it's saying the ideal is still monogamy, but will tolerate polygamy, but only up to a max of 4. And if you go above that, you're in trouble. These rules and categories are clear, but what we have now in the West is serial monogamy. It's like one after the other, and one after the other, and right.
That's funny. It's not really, is it? They're just cheating non-stop, really.
Yeah, I mean, they might sort of say, "I have 2, 3, 4 girlfriends. They don't know about each other. I'm having sex with all of them,"
and they're just screwing prostitutes. That's not monogamy.
So I think, however much I hate it, the answer is that, Sharia does keep, it does regulate sexual relations between men and women enough to, give some sort of order. And because Elliot's American, we have to remind Americans about the Mormon Wars, because you know that the Mormons are polygamous. And basically, they were chased from the east of America to the west of America, and they finally stopped in Utah. But they kept being moved on and run out of town. And you can imagine all these monogamous Christian Americans saying, "We cannot allow these Mormons to outbreed us. And if they do, they'll take over the whole country. And that's why we have to kill them, or isolate them, or threaten to kill them unless they give up their polygamy." And this is what in fact happened.
Yeah. So
because,
I've seen some
it's sort of
documentaries
logical.
of Mormons.
If you only have one wife, and there's this other group that's just come into town, and they can have more than one wife and all those children, they'll eventually.
Do you think the Mormon system works? Because I hear that a lot of people, a lot of men don't have any wives, and a few men have a lot, like 10 wives. So that do you think the Mormon system works from what you hear? I think from what I hear, it doesn't really work.
Well, what would happen if, the alpha males just take up all the women is that you will have a gang of men who know they're never going to, find a wife. And they
Yeah,
will be very rapey and want to kill the men with all their wives and rape them, right? That's
yeah,
how men think. So
yeah,
in fact, you actually have a very unstable society. And as for
yeah.
the wives of these polygamous men, um, poisoning is a very common thing because women,
Wow,
they don't use violence, but they'll find a few ways of getting back at you if they don't like you. And if they live in
wow,
the
okay,
same place, in the same
yeah.
home, then they're going to poison the food of the children of the
Is
women they
this
don't
something you're
like.
making up, or you've heard, or?
Actually, this was an interview of an African woman saying polygamy was bad because these things happen in polygamous households, that the wives
Oh, okay.
would poison each other or poison each other's children or stuff like that. This is
Hmm.
what an African
Interesting.
woman
I'll
said
ask my
in the
wife
interview.
that, my African wife, if she's heard of anything like that. It would be interesting. But she's not here. She's going around shopping at the moment. Um, yeah.
I mean, I've actually got a book about polygamy in Islam. I mean, it's quite. I mean, it doesn't sound like fun at all. You have to treat them equally. If you want to take them, if you want to go on holiday, which one do you take? Do
Mm.
they draw lots or do you just choose one? And then next time you go on holiday,
It's just not
you
that
have to
complicated. Not
rotate.
everybody wants to go on holiday. My Arab wife's not interested really in traveling. She just wants to be with her mum. Even my African wife doesn't even care about traveling. She just likes to be at home. It's just, it's not really a big problem.
This is your honeymoon, sort of, right?
No, it's just she didn't even want to go in the first place. She just coming along with me.
Mhm,
She's a very homely kind of person. So I
mhm,
asked her, "What do you think about Indonesia?" No, nothing really. Just the food's okay. So it's
That's
a
very
British
good.
thing, traveling.
You don't like the food? I think it's fantastic.
No, the food's okay. No, no, she's not too bothered. She's a very homely person. She's happy just
Mhm,
staying at home all the time, kind of thing, which
mhm,
is good. So most of my kids are like that. Yeah.
mhm,
So it's just me. I'm kind of exploring, trying to. It's kind of a way of thinking out loud. I just go traveling and just exploring and saying, what do I really want to do for the next 20 years? That's what I'm doing here. Just thinking
mhm.
out, yeah, thinking about things. Um, yeah, Gant, what was it? Elliot was saying, "Am I having a go or am I asking legitimate questions?" So having a go is when you're not really responding to the facts. You're just being in. So you're just saying your point of view without taking account like any of the facts we're putting forward. So but anyway,
Mhm.
so just so you know, Eddie, you feel free. We don't mind, but that's how you see it. And if you want us to see it differently, you kind of have to engage by saying, "Oh, I see your point of view. This is your argument, and this is how your argument is wrong." You know what I mean? You can't just say you're just wrong, 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 and you've got no idea, and you're low IQ and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't have any effect. It's not. Yeah. Anyway, so I had a Jewish neighbor who was on the dole. How successful is that? Oh yeah, so that's really true. I mean, I know loads of very unsuccessful Jews.
They're going to be voting for Mamdani. That's the whole point. All these
No,
Jews
I
who've
know
been gotten
Zionists.
against.
I know very unsuccessful Zionist Jews as well. Our common friend, without naming him, his friends are very much like him, just doing really not getting anywhere. And partly the problem is that they're not on the necessarily have to be on the dole. They're on a payout from their Zionist friends. So he would go every year. This friend of ours, and many of his friends on the same street, they would go to a certain rich household and they get loads of money for being good Zionist Jews, basically, right? And then that kind of weakens you, and that's essentially part of the problem in Israel. Like they're going for the freebies, and you become a useless person with that sort of mentality. So yeah, I think Zionism is going to self implode for that reason as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mamdani is going to be voted in by the poorer Jews who like his policies of rent control and whatever, and the rich Jews owning the apartment buildings who want to
Yeah.
collect rent will not like Mamdani for,
And it's not just
proposing
poorer
rent
versus, but
control.
it is true that rich people become selfish and they forget the problems of the poor. So it's not just rich and poor. I think there's some very successful intellectuals who are well off, who would definitely support,
Mm.
Mamdani. I mean, who is Bernie poor? He's a search Bernie Sanders, whatever. There's lots
Well,
of
no, not Bernie
intelligent
Sanders, but
socialists.
there will be, all these Democrat voting Jews in New York who, want to live, who I mean, Judith was saying that there's a lot of Hasidic Jews who, would be interested in more welfare benefits, which Mamdani is
Hmm.
going to give them.
Yeah.
So he's
So
buying
Elliot
their
thinks.
vote,
Here you go.
basically.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, let's see what Claire. Why do you believe AMG is such a figure of fun among serious intellectuals? What does that mean? I don't know. What's
well,
that?
I
Figure of
don't
fun.
think E. Michael Jones is a figure of fun. I think a lot of Jews are afraid to talk to him because he's actually a very eloquent fellow. Um,
Hmm.
so he tends to win his arguments. I don't know if you know who Charles Moskowitz is, but he's a
No.
Jew. He's not one of those smart Jews, which is why
Hmm.
for a while he entertained E. Michael Jones, and E. Michael Jones just ran circles around him until he couldn't stand it anymore,
Hmm.
and basically talked over him and just told him not to come back anymore. But I mean, you know his technique. He will create a narrative that unless you sort of say, oh, but it's not like this, and you're treating Jews as if they were of one mind and and one body. You'll have to agree that Amy Dean did say that abortion is a Jewish human right, or whatever he keeps saying, right? Because there are liberal Jews and there are religious Jews, but if you lump them all together, you're going to get the negative impression of Jews by focusing on the bad ones. It's sort of like saying Muslims are terrorists and blow
Hmm.
themselves up from time to time, and we should watch out for them and look how scary they are. Blah blah blah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking at some of. I think there are some principles that Elliot. We could
He doesn't
disagree. I
like
don't want
you,
to say
Michael Jones. I mean, he
no,
complains
not
that
just that. He thinks that helping poor people is stealing money from rich people. The Quran talks about it specifically. This is his last comment, I guess. He says, under what conditions is it acceptable to steal someone else's money? I think he's talking about the dole because that's his previous comment. So the Quran says that that everything comes from God, and you're lucky you're given certain amounts of money. Like you didn't choose which vagina you came out of, as it were. But essentially everything belongs to God, and God says it's for everybody, and so you owe it to poor people some of that money. And
yeah, you're supposed
also
to
there's a
give to
yeah.
charity, and there's a flat rate income tax of 20%, according
But
to the
he
Quran.
didn't. He doesn't recognize charity. He sees charity as stealing. So I'm trying to explain to him the philosophy. The philosophy is, first of all, it's not yours. It's God's. You didn't make it. See, it's God's, and God says, "I made all of this for everybody, but I gave some money to you to see how you behave with it." And there's another philosophy in the Hadith, which is that society rests on the poor people, which we saw during the what they call it, that epidemic, the pandemic, they call it, right? When we clapped for the dustbin men and the nurses because they kept society going. even though they're poor. Normally they would be, disrespected. Like, you don't respect the dustbin men, the trash people in American speak, right? But we realized if they didn't do their job, the city will be virus ridden and we'll be dead. We will all be finished. So that kind of highlighted the importance of poorer people. So we need, for our own sake, even selfish, for even from a selfish perspective, it makes sense to have poorer people taking their basic needs taken care of, and and there's so many other elements to it. Like, I think Jordan is a beautiful country where everybody loves and respects each other. They don't see each other as how much money they have. And so then you feel more connected. Otherwise, it's a very depressing place. I don't really like where I am right now because people don't really connect with each other as brothers and sisters, and we're social beings. So, like, I would say to Elliot, don't see things only as money. And so please, Elliot, because I think I like to engage with you more. What do you understand? Do you see this perspective? Do you understand any of the arguments I made? One is, first of all, it's from God. If you believe in God, then it's all from God. And if God says you should share it, and we're all God's creation, it doesn't make sense that it should be shared. And that argument is based on you didn't decide which family you're born into. So why do you have more right to certain wealth than other people who are just born out of different vaginas, as it were? And do you understand that helping the poor people helps society in general? Otherwise, it collapses. So there's a couple of arguments. So if you want to engage, respond, like say, oh, I saw that argument you made. This is the reason why the argument doesn't hold. Then that's an engagement. What do you think, Claire?
Well,
Isn't that reasonable?
I would answer by saying, within the constrictions of encouraging the wealthy to give to charity, a flat rate income tax of 20%.
I think it's less than that, but we discussed that anyway. But yeah, but 20%, cool. That's much less than in the UK for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40%, and everybody pays 20%. I would say the low wage don't pay any at all, but then they don't get to vote. But once you pay taxes, you get to vote. So there will be these gradations that are kind of workable. There would be less red tape. People would be encouraged to use their enterprise to earn a living and start a business, and the government would want them to do it. and this is how to make your society prosperous. But now the taxes keep going up because of the interest payments that the government itself has to service. It can't even, so that what they do is keep, raising the income tax because they have to service the payments that, of all the debt that they accumulated. And the only way to end it is to say, right, we're going to cancel all our debts. We're going to default on all our debts, and there's nothing the Federal Reserve or any of these private banks can do about it because they don't own an army, right? So that's what they could do, with a snap of a finger. But they're not thinking straight. I don't know, but it's not that hard. I mean, these bankers don't have armies, right? And the soldiers in the army, in the armed forces, I'm sure they'd be happy to have lower property prices so they can get on the housing ladder. And all these solutions are already within Sharia, except that Muslims seem to want to talk about the existence of God more than turning the Quran into some kind of political manifesto, which is what I'm doing.
Interesting. So yeah, okay. So what do Muslims do? They talk about convincing people God exists because that's fundamental. Otherwise, as I've discussed with you, you can't really practice the religion with much conviction if you don't really believe in God.
You think I lack conviction, do you?
No,
You
I'm
think I lack
saying,
conviction?
well, I don't want to go over the same thing, but I'm saying that it's very hard to, yeah, I would say you need to have a fundamental belief that all your beliefs stand on, which is
Yeah,
belief in God.
I do. So are you saying I lack conviction?
Yeah, because you're not Muslim
Well,
yet.
really, how do I lack conviction?
Um,
What? Because I'm not Muslim? Is that
yeah, do
it?
you wear a headscarf? Do you
No,
do
no, no.
much of
I
it?
don't need to do all that because I'm the only one that actually promotes Sharia. While you, supposedly believing Muslims, you just smile away and just do the most ineffective thing and argue with these dumb Christians who don't even believe in God anyway, so they don't give a crap that their stupid beliefs are idolatry because they don't think that God exists to punish them for anything. So you can go on about it being idolatry, and they don't give a crap. But I know why you won't promote Sharia, because you don't want to get into trouble, right? You don't want to get into trouble with, whatever authority you live under. And that's why, you just don't. You just, talk to these dumb Christians who, they're always swaying around.
I don't know. I
You
didn't.
and they pretend to be Christian. So don't you say I lack conviction.
All
Because
right.
I'm not some bloody Muslim in some bloody hijab.
Okay, all right.
What's so funny? Are you saying I lack conviction? Would it help me if I became a Muslim? I don't think so. Do you think it would make it easier to sell secular Koranism to these Islamophobes? It wouldn't. It helped me even more, right? You know what they're like. So, in what way do I lack conviction? I mean, you just sort of do these talking points, come to Islam when they would rather die. They would rather die than imagine themselves hanging out with people like you.
Yeah. So I'm speaking generally rather than getting stuck in or hung up on like you or one particular person.
No, you just said I lack conviction. How do I lack conviction?
I would say I would say headscarf is an important part of Sharia.
No, but I'm not a fucking Muslim, right? I'm not a fucking Muslim. I don't have
it just makes me
a
laugh when somebody gets really
Muslim with some stupid hijab. It wouldn't help anyway, right? It wouldn't help.
It would.
No,
I mean, that's one of the things I want to bring up with E. Michael Jones, like bringing back modest clothing. I think that would really help. Like, what would you say? Let's talk about that for a minute, since we're talking about hijab, right? How would you describe as modest? What would you describe as modest clothing? Are there any boundaries? Because
below the knee and not showing your cleavage, and not and wearing long sleeves, or certainly not, that sort of thing. So if you're going to make these people wear a fucking hijab, then they're not going to do it, right? Even the Iranians refuse to do it. That's why they get into trouble about wearing a hijab.
Yeah.
So
some of them.
So why don't you just sort of introduce it in like it's a political manifesto and give them economic benefits instead of these dumb fashion statements that they think are ugly, right? That they just can't even stand the sight of it. So that's a problem.
I mean,
right?
I think
they just can't stand the sight of you.
Sure.
Or women men and women wearing their muzzy costumes.
Okay. So you said forget Sharia. Let's do the watered down version of Sharia, which is women wear skirts over their knees. Don't worry about covering their ankles. Don't worry about covering their hair. So you believe in a watered down Sharia? Is that what you're saying? Because I think Christianity is dying because going for the watered down
No, yeah,
version.
I know you keep saying that, but okay, fashion statements is just modesty. So whatever people, think is modest.
Yeah.
So they don't want these prescriptive burqa niqab shit, right? They can't stand the sight of it. So you know
A
you're
lot of
saying
Muslims converts
dress like an
take their
Arab.
time. Yeah. So we don't like Muslim
No, why don't
convert.
you focus on the political aspects of it that would make them, property prices coming down, defaulting on our debts. Maybe you lack the imagination. It's all about making them look like fucking Arabs, which they can't stand.
I don't know if they can't. Yeah, I mean there are people who can't stand it. The unemployed lot. I don't know. But I would say a lot of Londoners don't mind. They're quite comfortable with it. They've got lots of Muslim friends.
You're talking these Islamophobes, and you want to wear them to what was this thing the men wear togs?
Not everybody's an
shalwar
Islamophobe. Loads of
kameez,
people
or
are quite comfortable with Muslims in London anyway.
okay, well, they don't want to wear that. They don't want to give up their identity. But it doesn't. The Quran doesn't say you have to dress like whatever Asian, Arab, Muslims.
I'm just
wear,
saying, don't
right?
water it down. Like you give
I'm
people
not
the
watering it
opportunity
down.
to. Yeah,
I can read you that verse. It says, "Cover your bosom." Right? Cover your bosom. Fine. And do not and only wear what is normal to see. So that's a matter of interpretation. But if you want to squish them into looking, like an Arab or an Afghan, of course they're not going to do it. So why focus on that when you can talk about the manifesto? The manifesto. Maybe you people can't think like that, right? Because you're not even programmed to think about it. It's all about God, and the thing is, once they see the benefits of it, they'll probably believe in it, right? And anyway, they pretend to believe all kinds of shit anyway, or because they can't say this, they can't say that. Who knows what they believe from one moment to the next?
Who knows what? What they believe from one thing to the next.
People believe from one moment to the next.
I don't think they stand for anything, so they don't really believe in anything yet. And so Islam,
they just swim according to their emotions. Do they hate Jews more than Muslims today, or the other way around? They just reason, in quotes, with their emotions of hatred and fear. That's why they're so easily manipulated. They can't reason. They don't have any convictions. They don't believe in anything. But, they might pretend to believe in this or that because, it's what the government wants them to believe. They've done it for centuries. They have to pretend to believe that Jesus is God, right? That's what they were supposed to believe. And now they don't even know that this was what they were forced into believing. And they don't know that the founding fathers, were the ones who decided we now that we're in America, we don't have to pretend to believe in all that crap anymore. So
cool. Yeah, I'll go on. So, what's the next kind of area of debate or discussion? Khalid is saying but is not actually listening. Maybe, who knows? I'm kind of reading around the comments and listening and participating as much as I can.
So what do you think E. Michael Jones was trying to tell you?
What was E. Michael Jones trying to tell me? I think we were generally agreeing. I would suggest an idea, and he would often agree on it. So I'm not sure. Okay. One thing he was telling me that I didn't put forward, I guess. I'm not sure if I even was that Muslims are filling a void or a vacuum, a spiritual or moral vacuum. So the reasons why Muslims are taking over Western countries is
because they have more babies. You say that every time.
Not just more babies, but no, there's a moral vacuum and there's a lack of religion, like you're saying. So the lack of rules to follow that people need. So he's saying there's a vacuum because human beings naturally need it. So he was saying that,
system. I don't
Yeah.
know if you heard David and me talking about your stream 2 days
No,
ago.
I haven't. I mean, I've been traveling around, so barely, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it was a longish one, so I didn't expect you to listen to it because you're on a holiday after all. You don't want to listen to my streams, um, but really fundamentally,
Yeah.
the, for the Westerner, they've got to come into they've got to acknowledge a few things, right? They have to acknowledge that Christianity has failed them for centuries. It hasn't worked for centuries, and all the Republican revolutions, the American, French, and Russian revolutions has been about rejecting Christianity and the political system called monarchy. So, but they haven't. It's not because they weren't told about it formally. They don't know, and the fallback position is Jews destroyed our civilization because look, they're doing so well. They're doing having a wonderful time in Israel, killing all those Gazans, and they're going to do some more. Right? I mean, that's how they think. They envy the Jews. They envy the Muslims. Oh, Muslims fresh off the boat. They just arrived, a few decades ago, and now they're the mayors in our country. We'll blame the Jews for them too. Right? They're going to, I mean, they basically blame, I mean, some of them blame Jews for Islam, right? Because some rabbis say Islam is the broom of Israel. Have you heard that expression?
Is the what?
It's the broom. I'll look it up.
I don't know. I know David calls Islam a controlled opposition. Is that a similar idea? Or is that something else?
Well, I mean, a lot of things can be called controlled opposition, right? I mean, UKIP could be controlled opposition for something even worse. Let me just check the saying. I can't find it. Islam is the broom of Israel. Yeah, that's a common expression. So I've heard, rabbis, saying the sort of thing and gloating.
What does it mean? The broom, as in like you clean stuff with?
Yes. They might even mean that Islam is the broom to sweep away Christianity. And there were these. Okay, I've got a Grok definition of it. Hold on. Okay, so Grok says the phrase "Islam is a broom of Israel" to sweep away Christianity, attributed to fringe rabbis like David Tuitu and Baruch Efrati, suggests Islam could weaken Christianity, seen as historically oppressive to Jews due to past persecutions like the Crusades or Holocaust. They view Islam's growth in Europe as a... Sorry?
Oh, interesting. Yep, interesting perspective.
I'll just finish reading it. They view Islam's growth in Europe as a divine or strategic counter to Christian influence tied to messianic prophecies. This is not mainstream Jewish, not a mainstream Jewish view. Most Jewish thought emphasizes coexistence, recognizing Islam's monotheism and shared Abrahamic values. Critics call the phrase divisive, noting Muslims in Europe are a diverse minority, not a unified force. The idea stems from historical grievances, but oversimplifies complex interfaith dynamics. The end.
Okay. It's just an idea. I don't really believe in it. It's just perspective. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? We're not really serving Jews, I guess.
Well, I mean, maybe we don't even know as individuals or groups, what we're supposed to be doing. Some people are kind of programmed to do certain things, sort of like Gentiles seem to be programmed to blame Jews when they suffer bad government, right? I mean, you could say that, and but I guess it's not just Jews who are to blame or get the blame, because minorities get the blame, like Muslims and, other foreigners, maybe Indians and, and other groups.
I mean, I'm interested in some points Enid's making. I think he's suggesting, like, he's asking, how has China become successful if it doesn't have a religion? It's essentially atheistic. And he's also saying, like, to what extent, like, does monogamy contribute to the success of China? I mean, China's success has been very short term, and it's got an impending population implosion. So success to some extent, but its survival depends on having more children, and we'll see who they depend on to somehow have those children. So it's successful, but it's only for a couple of decades long. So, I mean, what's your opinion?
Well, China is suffering from demographic problems because of Mao's one-child policy, because it's kind of like, you're on the road and you're told to go left, and you really go far left, and then, you hit the verge, and then it's like you just need to be, on an, even keel. So now that they're having a problem of not enough children being born, and then a lot of people don't want to have children because China gave gay men gay rights a long time ago, and
Really?
now it seems a lot of people are kind of happy with that situation, not having children.
Yeah. So I think their success is their, I don't know if you call it autocracy or whatever you want to call it, but a very
democratic centralism.
Yeah. So lack of democracy really helped them direct things. And he also said, I don't know, he also talked about, does China allow usury? I think they have more of, they have investment, which is the Islamic system. They don't, I think, probably don't depend on usury so much, because I don't, that's an ineffective way of getting money, because
I think they have a property bubble. So I think that the kind of extended as far as
okay, so there might be
credit
suffering
is
from
concerned.
But they were able to direct money really effectively because they had a strong government, and the government invested in things a lot, so they didn't have to depend on usury. The problem with usury, just to explain to some people, is that a bank can lend money really badly, and knowing that the person's business is going to be a load of crap, they won't purposely choose the worst. So you do have to give some sort of business plan, but they don't have to depend on the business doing well, because they have what's the word, they I forget all the keywords, but basically the person who's lending or borrowing money would have to say, oh, if I don't pay the money back, you get my house, or whatever it is. So security, right? So it's not the most effective or reliable way to lend money.
It should be a joint venture,
yes.
and the bank should be invested in your investment and want it to succeed, and not really hoping that your venture fails so they can get your house. It's that sort of thing. So I get the whole thing about usury, but China, in theory, is more ready to adopt secular Koranism, in the sense that the mechanism is already there. It wouldn't have to, dismantle representative democracy to do that. I mean, if America wanted to do that, it would have to ban, all political parties but one. Not that I'm saying that they are in any way ready to do it, but they're kind of going back to their history. More and more American social media commentators are going back to George Washington's farewell speech, Orrin McIntyre and Mel Kay I notice have been doing that after, how I've been going on about it for years, and, nobody will even read it because Eliot says that the average American is illiterate, suffering from ADHD, and wouldn't understand it anyway, even if he did read it. So,
and people should know before I leave, I mean, since we're talking about China, it's got amongst the oldest Muslim societies in the world. So they've got thousands of mosques and things. So it's not like it's completely atheistic. So you're allowed to practice your religion. It's just the government is essentially calls itself atheistic, but allows you to practice your religion to some extent. Yeah, and I think China's survival will probably depend on Muslims to keep up the children. So maybe that will happen in the future. But its success has been very short term. So to call it a particularly successful country might be a bit too early. But yeah, I've got to go. I've got an incredibly long day, working till 3-4 in the morning. So because of the time difference. So
you're still working and on holiday?
Yeah. I go different places, and I'm always working wherever I'm going on holiday. I go around, look around, but I'm always working as well. Yeah, work online for people who don't know. So I just taught a lesson before you, then go a bit of shopping downstairs, and then come back up again, do this, teach some more, mix it all up.
Yes. Well, I hope your trip on Saturday is successful in the Philippines. Will you be talking to David again on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, while we were talking, I think I got an email from David saying, because I was asking him if he's up for a stream, and I think he said yes. He just said it's read it. So yeah, we will.
Oh, good. I mean, he was quite interested in your stream with E. Michael Jones, because he'd spoken to him before. Some years ago.
I saw he was the first comment on the stream. Yeah.
We were saying, maybe you didn't know, what a celebrity he really is, but
yeah. I mean, I might not know to the full extent, but he does get a lot of attention. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Good talking to you always. Thank you, everybody else.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I lost my temper a bit when you told me I lacked conviction.
You lack conviction, Claire.
I don't think that there is anyone who promotes what I promote with more conviction. There we go. You're entitled to your opinion.
I was trying to, at least, rather than getting personal, although I like to get personal, we've been down that whole route so many times that it's kind of boring. I kind of believe in, I do believe in Nietzsche's idea, if you have a why, you can get to any how, and that idea is supported or furthered by my other favorite psychologist, Viktor Frankl, who says God is God is the super reason, like essentially all reason or why to do anything comes from God anyway. So that's where I'm coming from, and I think there's a lot of reason to believe he's right. But anyway, all right. Thank you very much.
All right, and have a good trip.
Thank you.
Bye. Have I? Yes, I posted the link. Feel free to join me, anyone, if you want to, or I will end the stream. Yes, Viktor Frankl is Khaled's favorite psychologist. Well, he's a neurologist, psychiatrist, philosopher, and Holocaust survivor. Born to a Jewish family from Austria. He corresponded with Sigmund Freud. He was actually quite political. he was concerned about high number of teen suicides around the time of the end of year report cards. Oh dear. Yes, I have heard of teenagers killing themselves over failed exams and stuff. He talked about man's search for meaning. I mean, what does meaning mean, Are we asking, what does it mean? But what does what mean? A lot of people online, social media influencers are talking about the meaning crisis. So I guess they're asking themselves, what is the meaning of their life? And by that I mean the purpose of their life, right? And of course, only the people who don't believe in God would ask that question, because if you did believe in God, you would immediately know what the purpose of your life is, which is to pass the exam that is this life. What is this exam about? It is to entitle you to get to the better place in the afterlife. So just by entertaining the idea of the Abrahamic God in the afterlife, you immediately give life meaning. You might, however, decide that you don't want to think of your life now as sitting in an examination hall, taking the exam to get you to better things. But this is really what Muslims talk about. They will talk about, well, of course, they will talk about heaven, an unimaginably, wonderful next life. Khalid has talked about imagining that one is a fetus gestating in the stomach of its mother, quite unaware of the wonders to come when he is finally born. So, Viktor Frankl talks about an existential crisis that people feel. That's why they kill themselves. They don't like their lives and they can't imagine their lives ever improving, so they kill themselves. Right. So he's got developed this methodology called existential analysis. Which consists of paradoxical intention. Clients learn to overcome obsessions or anxieties by self-distancing and humorous exaggeration. Reflection is drawing the client's attention away from their symptoms, as hyper-reflection can lead to inaction. Socratic dialogue and attitude modification, asking questions designed to help a client find and pursue self-defined meaning in life. But that, you see, the thing is, it's for people, it's basically for atheists, right? But if you superimpose this narrative that your current life is but a time taking a test in the examination hall in life, you immediately have a purpose. Interestingly, Frankl's work has been endorsed in the about philosophy of Hasidic Judaism. I mean, I would have thought if you took your religion seriously, it would be this life leads to the next life. We all have immortal souls, and if we don't watch out, we would find ourselves enduring eternal damnation in hell, and so we would be working to going to the better place, and the only way of going to the better place is to obey God's laws. And if by any chance we enjoy any degree of happiness while we are obeying God's laws, then we should be grateful and thank God some more. So basically, that is the point of religion, to give us very low expectations so we don't keep asking for more. So I don't know what these Jews are doing, these Chabad Hasidic Jews, why they are in fact endorsing the work of an atheist, which is what Viktor Frankl is. So I suppose you can say that atheists can endure terrible things and still find meaning in life. Of course, that's possible. But for most people, they probably only think their life is worth living if they're getting what they want, and if they suffer some terrible trauma like the Holocaust, they're just never going to get over it. Or maybe some Jews get over it quicker than Jews of less forbearance. I hope that I have somehow, even if inadequately, explained the whole purpose of belief in the afterlife. You do need to believe in the afterlife, because if you don't, then you won't see a lot of good being rewarded or evil being punished. So you have to conjure up this concept of heaven and hell to create these areas of afterlife punishment and afterlife reward for anything that you weren't punished for if it was evil, or anything you weren't rewarded for if it is good. And obviously it is conducive to better behavior if most people believed in this, so that they will act correctly. Now, Confucius, way back in ancient China, recognized that there was an awful lot of people way back then who knew what the correct thing to do was in theory, but they never did it. In fact, yesterday I looked up, I asked Grok a question about which Chinese philosopher complained about this phenomenon of all these Chinese people who knew the correct thing to do but never did it. And I could read it to you. My question was there a Chinese political scientist who complained that people know what they are supposed to do to act correctly but do not do it? Yes, there was such a figure, Grok says, the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius, whose teachings formed the basis of Confucianism and have profoundly shaped Chinese political thought, ethics, and governance for over 2 millennia. He is often regarded as a foundational thinker in political philosophy, influencing systems of moral leadership, bureaucracy, and statecraft. In the Annex, a collection of his sayings compiled by his disciples, Confucius expressed frustration with this human failing in a well-known passage. To see what is right and not do it is lack of courage. Or to know what is right and not do it is the worst cowardice. I guess that's not sufficiently, what's the word? Well, it's not powerful enough to change behavior because, everybody's going to think, well, sometimes I lack courage, but I'm not the only one, right? I think honest people will often accept that. Quite often they are afraid of doing a whole bunch of things. I would have put it this way: to ignore truth is corruption. Corruption is ignoring truth. And then people might sit up and notice and not just say, oh, well, aren't we all a bit scared sometimes? This reflects his broader complaint about moral knowledge without action. People understand ethical duties rooted in Ren or benevolence and Li or ritual propriety, but fail to follow through due to weakness, fear, or self-interest. He saw this as a core societal problem, lamenting in other passages how individuals and rulers alike recognize virtuous paths but abandon them for expediency, leading to disorder. No prominent modern Chinese political scientist matches this exact sentiment based on available records. So it must have been Confucius. So what is a solution to this problem? What was I saying before? I was saying that we need to create this concept, which may in fact turn out to be true if God exists. But even if he doesn't, a lot of people do want to believe that, the enemies will go to hell, and they will go to heaven, because of course we're all going to believe that all our enemies are evil people, and of course we are good people. But God will, if he exists, will be the ultimate arbiter. No, Confucius did not forbid usury, but you may have heard that it was the Chinese who discovered, or not discovered, who first practiced, who first created paper money, and then I guess it went a bit crazy and made lots and lots and lots of paper money, and then the economy crashed and burnt. So let me recap on what I think we were saying, Khalid and I, as well as what Khalid was saying to E. Michael Jones, and what David was saying about the exchange between Khalid and E. Michael Jones. I express impatience with Muslims for not just promoting Sharia. I know a few of them have done so and have got themselves into trouble. And then I know they keep saying, oh, why don't you convert to Islam? And I just don't think my converting to Islam would help me sell secular Koranism. I think it's a form of malign encouragement on the parts of so many people, because if I were to convert, they would say, well, we hate you even more now that you are Muslim, and you're certainly even less one of us. So I think it's a form of malign encouragement, and it just wouldn't help me sell secular Koranism at all. And I know I get my unique selling point by being a non-Muslim promoting Sharia with more energy than apparently believing Muslim men. who prefer the, softly will convert them one by one by going to Speaker's Corner and talking to people pretending to be Christian and not caring about idolatry. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying the quickest way to do it is to get the American Republic to become an Islamic American Republic. That's the quickest way. And then all those vassal states in Europe and Australasia will convert too. So that's why I mostly talk to Americans, because they, of all people, however much they suffer from the disappointments of their political system, they are the most important people in the world, because if anybody's going to do anything about their government, it is the American voter. But what are American voters to do now that they voted and finally got their president elected a second time, though it could have been the third time if the previous election was stolen? What am I to tell Americans who say, well, we did what we thought would have got us this president who would end the endless neocon wars and get rid of the illegal immigrants, and well, at least he's doing one part of his promise. He at least is making a big deal of, sending ICE around and, nabbing people from their cars and kicking them out of their country. And it may be that the deliberate cruelty of this policy, is meant to pander to his base. But that's all the endless wars. Still, they continue. In theory, European leaders could say, we don't want a European war in Europe, because every time there's a European war, it becomes another world war, and, we're not stupid, and we're not going to be the one starting the Third World War. You would have thought they'd say that, right? But sadly for the Europeans, Europe, or the European Union, is run by two warmongering mad women, being Ursula von der Leyen of Germany and Kaja Kallas of Estonia. So they want war, and the men seem to be particularly helpless. I really think Westerners, because they haven't got a religion, do not, in fact, have any principles that they can defend, because they don't even know that they need principles to defend. I know currently they think, well, I don't want to defend anything. It's too much trouble. Who wants to die for principles? Not me. But it's only when men I was going to say pretend. It's only when men claim that they have principles that they will be forced into defending them. And sadly, they don't seem to want any principles to defend. Where can they go and find them? Were they minded to find themselves principles to defend? You would have thought that they would want to defend the principle of being men. But sadly for Western men, they actually want to become women and enjoy the feminine privilege of having more offers of sex than they are prepared to accept. This is totemic of feminine privilege, which I suppose men primarily motivated by sex want to enjoy. And that's why transgenderism is so popular. Men do not wish to be men. They actually want to be women, enjoying more offers of sex than they are prepared to accept. So it doesn't look like Western men are fighting their way to finding principles to die for. Yes, I was aware, Elliot, that adultery was illegal in some states in the US. It still is. The law hasn't been repealed, but it's just being ignored in the matriarchy of America. Well, Eliot has made a claim about God, and this is actually in agreement, in harmony with the Jewish and Islamic conception of God being pure spirit and energy, and not in any way anthropomorphic. Gosh, we go back a long way. So you do. So Holger remembers me from the time when I was briefly mentioned in the global media when I had my Facebook, my Colonel Gaddafi Facebook support group, and for a while it was actually reported globally, and then I suppose somebody said you must never report on what that woman does, or you will be sacked as editor or something. Elliot the Islamophobe says banning usually would crash America's economy. He can't prove it. He just wants everyone to think that adopting Sharia would crash and burn everything. But we know his opinion is not neutral or impartial, and we know that he is an Islamophobe. I don't know why he says that Islam is a refuge for sex addicts. What do you mean by refuge? I think all men are sex addicts. Eliot says Islam allows men to launder their sex addiction as something noble. You must have heard of sublimation. Have you heard of sublimation? It's a psychological thing, right? So instead of chasing skirt, you're supposed to build up your career so you become attractive to women, and women want to marry you because you have a good job and you're clearly capable of being a good husband and father. So that's the whole purpose of sublimation, which Western men used to do when they took marriage seriously. And Elliot says, got to go. All right. Thank you for coming, and I will end the stream now.